Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind podcast. Today we are joined by John Youboty, who actually, for many of you out there who may not know, this was one of my former teammates at Temple. Now, he was way more successful than me. All right? I was just out there, trying to survive, but this guy was out there crushing it. And John is a licensed realtor out in Houston, Texas. He's a seasoned Airbnb superhost, and he's been that way for 7 years with experience hosting guests from all over the world. He believes that balance is the key to success, both in business and in life, and is constantly striving to find the right balance within all elements of his personal algorithm. John is a former NFL D lineman that successfully transitioned into the entrepreneurial world. And tonight, we're going to get the honor to be able to walk through his story and understand some of the success points, some of the different tips and strategies for making it on the business side, and also just a little bit about what he's getting into around the world. So, John, thank you for joining us, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. It's been a little while. Good to catch up with you. We've been, communicating fiercely through praise and other individuals that are mutual contacts. So it's good to actually directly face-to-face once again. So appreciate you for having me, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Dude, absolutely. And before we even jump into your story, man, can you tell us where you are right now, where you just came from?
Well, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm in Pentagon City, to be precise. Literally, as I look out the window, I can see the Pentagon right now. But I just landed about 2.5 hours ago in DCA, Ronald Reagan National Airport, from Liberia, which is, the diaspora of my family's heritage. I was out there for about 3 weeks. Prior to 2020, the pandemic, I was making a custom of going out there once a year for at least about a month time, just, getting a grasp of what's going on out there. I have a hardware store out there that I'm a partial owner with a buddy of mine. So it's, kind of like a mom and pop shop, a miniature version of Home Depot. Right now, the main industry out there is home building. So we just try to take advantage of what the market need was. So just go out there, kind of get in tune with what's going on. And actually, if we dive into it during my stay right now, I actually just made a land purchase out there as well. So
Dope. We're definitely going to dive into that because this is huge. I know that a lot of people during the pandemic, their eyes were awakened to kind of, the motherland, if you will, right? And a lot of people started taking trips back. And when you really see it, it's like, man, there's opportunities everywhere. And if you just know some of the contacts that you can tap into and kind of who to connect with, it really could turn into a major opportunity down the road, right? And so before we jump into that, though, I know kind of where we left off, right, was we both played at Temple, right? And you actually made it to the next level and were able to play in the NFL as a D lineman. And then you made the transition from NFL to business, and you did that successfully and have been crushing the past couple of years. Can you talk to us about, one, what was it like playing in the NFL, and what was the difference between like college? How much did it increase when you went to that NFL level?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, starting off at Temple, obviously we played together at Temple. We were brief roommates there when I actually first transferred to Temple initially for that first summer. Me and you had quite some strategical battles on on Madden.
We ain't gonna say you won though. We ain't gonna talk about
that. We'll leave that for another day. But we're definitely of the upper ilk of Madden players, so that's definitely. Just at Temple, obviously, we had a lot of guys that transitioned to the NFL as well, especially that first year I got there, my junior year, just seeing guys like Tyher, Adrian Robertson, rest in peace to him, and just a lot of guys that we play with there. So I always just, when you're in the vicinity of the guys that's making it to the next level, always just gives you that belief. Also, my older brother played in the NFL for 7 years as well, so I always just had that self-belief that if he can do it, I can do it. And also at Temple, seeing other guys get there, definitely gave me that confidence that I can make it to the next level. Got there undrafted, so obviously that's a little bit more of a uphill battle than being a first, second, or third round draft pick. So I was just able to maneuver and adapt and try to get it in where I can fit in, and perfect my craft. I'm not gonna lie, when I first got there initially, I was like, man, I think it's not looking favorable for me. And as the weeks progressed through training camp, through spring practices and things of that nature, I just started to say, I don't think there's that much of a difference between me and the guys that are here. A lot of times there's backstories that play into your position of how you get there, but once you get there, you get that opportunity, you need to run with it. And I was able and fortunate to, had some pretty good preseason games, and I was able to stick around. My first year we went to the Super Bowl. We did lose, My second year was actually panning out for me to, get some significant playing time. Unfortunately, I tore my Achilles. In the sports world, as you know, that's one of the Achilles heel, no pun intended, when it comes to injuries. So stuck around for another year following that, did the rehab thing. It took a lot longer that we initially anticipated, and tried to come back, and that explosion just wasn't there. So after that happened, it took about a year of just trying to, gather my thoughts and seeing where the next step was. Somehow I fell in the realm of the sales world, something that I feel I have a natural knack for. I feel I've had a pretty diverse upbringing around a lot of different environments. My family's from West Africa, similar to you. And just from that cultural standpoint, that household is much different from what you're experiencing in your neighborhood or at school. So I guess that kind of just like, you just kind of cultivate a natural knack to adapt to different cultures, different people, and different customs of how people engage with each other and interact. And that's kind of what sales, that's the main element and aspect of sales, being able to, find that mutual ground with individuals, get them to like you, trust you, show that that you're articulate, you're to say of that given whatever it is you're selling. So I was able to do pretty well with that. Whatever you can name, I've sold it and thrive fairly well in each role. Had some sales manager roles as well. Was able to build some capital up and then transition into the real estate realm.
And John, before we get into the real estate realm, because this is huge, right? But I want to take it back just a little bit, because that transitionary period that you talked about is one that a lot of people struggle with. I didn't make it to the heights that you did, and I even struggled with it, right? That first year when I was done playing, it's like, dude, you've been playing football and sports your whole life. Like, exactly. That's my identity. Hey, what is these athlete, right? And then it's like, okay, that first year I'm looking at TV, I'm like, dude, I'm not out there. I got to change this. And so you mentioned that you took that year of time to kind of just dig deep and look within. And I know that's a huge theme throughout your whole story. What did you do during that year, and how did you start to really make that transition? Because a lot of people struggle with that.
That's a complex and elongated answer. Really, what I really picked up, two things I really picked up that year that's not even really in relation to the real estate world. One is yoga, which just give me that balance, that knowledge of self, that grounded state of mind. And it has endless benefits. And then also I picked up reading. So when I tore my Achilles, I was like, man, I really want to pick up a habit that's going to, pay dividends, that you can't even, that's incalculable. And reading was it for me. The first book I read was Think and Grow Rich. I read Outliers, and I read The Alchemist, and then it just kept going. To this day, I'm always reading a book at every single given time. In the year 2020, not to forward too far ahead, but in 2020, I read 40 books, all in some sense of, self-help, business, real estate, all within that niche. So
that is incredible. I wish I
would at a young age. While we're at Temple, the student assistants used to be behind us in regards of, reading and staying on top of your academics. And, obviously football is at the top of your mind, but I wish I was an avid reader as I am right now back in those days. So, man,
in hindsight's 2020, but the fact that you've got it going now, and some of the books you mentioned, Think and Grow Rich, The Alchemist, these are like mindset changing books. Yep. And if you really take some of the lessons from them, you can go far.
Yeah.
And so with that, you mentioned that you made the transition to sales, which is a lot of people, with that sports background, and me included, you've got that competitive nature and you've had to compete, the whole time to kind of get to where you are. And sales is just that. And you've had to communicate, leadership skills, teamwork, things of that nature. And so it's a nice transition to make. And so from there, you said you did the sales, you did a little bit of sales management, things of that nature. How did you start to come around to real estate? Was it one of the books that introduced you, or how did you get into real estate?
To be honest with you, I have an aunt, and I guess funny enough, she was actually just on a flight with me just now. And randomly, I saw her on my flight coming here right now from Liberia. I didn't even know she was in Liberia. I was sitting here when I was going to the luggage area at JFK. I was like, what the hell? So yeah, crazy enough, but she's in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and she's been in real estate, I want to say, since the early 90s, and I want to say she has at least 30 doors. So just seeing her, the lifestyle it affords her to live, I've never seen her. She's always moving at her own pace in everything she does in life. And that's because, her real estate portfolio covers her expenses and some. And I just see, you know, like I said, the lifestyle that I forced her to live, and I was always intrigued by it. I always just caught my eye at a young age, and I was like, man, that's a goal. You know, that's something I want to pursue. Even beyond, even if football worked for me in the grandest aspirations that I had with it, which would have been, you know, playing in the NFL for 10 years and X, Y, Z, I still would have pursued real estate at some point. So when those cut short, and obviously you gotta pay to play. So I had to build up some capital, and I was fortunate enough, you know, to have a natural knack in the sales realm of thing, and that was it. I was just intrigued by it. And one thing that also intrigues me in real estate is just how wide the spectrum is, you know, for whatever your natural proclivities and characteristic or attributes that suit you, there's a role and a hat that you can wear in the real estate realm, whether that's a consultant, you know, an agent, a fix and flip, an investor, a property manager, you know, there's going to be a role that fits your strengths in real estate somehow, some way.
Absolutely. And to your point, like real estate is such a great industry because everybody interacts with it in some way. You have to lay your head down somewhere to sleep at night, whether you're renting a place, whether you're purchasing a place. And so if you can find a skill that you kind of jive with that works within your character and use that within this realm, you could be super successful. And one of the things that really intrigued me is the fact that you've been an Airbnb superhost for 7 years, right? I don't even know. I think 7 years ago, that might have been the first time I even tried an Airbnb, right? I didn't know like, hey, listing, anything like that. How'd you get into that space?
So that was also just, I guess, serendipitous unfolding. So I was living in Houston at the time. I want to say it was like it was right before the Super Bowl came to Houston. So it was like 2016, 2017 or something like that. And I was actually getting ready to move back to Denver because that's where I first got my real estate license, was in Denver. Obviously, I played there. Once I got injured, I moved back to Houston, and I was like, man, I just like Denver. You know, it's kind of relaxing. It's not as bubbly as Houston is from a, you know, entertainment standpoint, but just from a peace of mind and focus and just a clarity and a tranquility standpoint, it's the place to be. So I was like, man, I want to go back to Denver. And it just so happened I had a lease for an apartment in Houston, and I thought I don't know where I got confused at, but somehow I didn't put in my 60-day notice in time. And when the lease was up, I was like, okay, I'm moving to Denver. And they're like, oh, no, you didn't put your 60-day notice in. You have to pay for the next 2 months. And at the time, my girlfriend was living in Denver. So I was like, shoot, what am I going to do for the last 2 months of the lease? And then that's just when I was starting to hear the remnants of Airbnb. So like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to try to put it on Airbnb and see if somehow it can at least pay for half of the rent. And, you know, I can muster up the other half to pay for it. And fortunate enough, this was right when the Super Bowl was coming to Houston, like literally. I put it on there. The day I put it on there, I got like bookings requests back to back to back to back to back. I was like, whoa. And it's been rolling ever since. And for the audience listening, bear with me. I'm pretty jet lagged. I'm trying to muster up my energy. So I'm saying that's why.
And John, we appreciate you, man. 25 hours of just constant flights to even be sitting in front of us today. I don't know how you're up right now.
Hey, I'm just pushing through it. As soon as we get off,
hey, come on now. No, but to that point, so that was the start. That was the origin story of it. But this was still the early days of Airbnb, right? Like it was kind of the wild, wild west. Now it's fully established. It's like a hotel chain. Marriott's are trying to copy it. But how did you grow from there? Did you keep doing the arbitrage model, or did you buy some places? What was the next step?
I stuck with arbitrage. I stuck with arbitrage from, what was that, 2016, 2017, all the way until fall. The latter part of 2019 was when I first got my first property that I put full on Airbnb that I owned. For that about 2.5, 3 year span, it was all through arbitrage. Speaking with landlords, you know, having to pay a little bit higher on the lease, having to put a little bit more on the security deposit, just showing them my profiles, showing them my reviews, you know, giving them that peace of mind that, hey, you know, that this is a business here. I'm not some cavalier or maverick guy to just, you know, trying to do something underneath your property. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to be responsible. I'm being very scrupulous on, you know, who I'm allowing to come into these properties. I'm reading the reviews. I have a standard of who I accept. They have at least a 4.6, 4.7 stars, at least 4 reviews. I'm trying my best to accept guests that are from out of town, not locals, because obviously locals have a higher chance of having, you know, parties or get-togethers because they're from the area, as opposed to out-of-towners who are likely there for a business weekend or for a family gathering or something like that. So,
And John, I love this, and I'm going to ask even a little bit more. You gave kind of like the synopsis of how you would talk to owners, but some of the members of the Financial Freedom Mastermind group are actually actively trying to do this. And I haven't done the arbitrage model. I know a couple people that have. I'm happy to be able to hear your story about how, but this strategy that you're using is one that a lot of people want to implement just to start getting some cash flow going. And they're nervous about like, hey, how do you even approach an owner, or where do you even find these owners? Like,
yeah.
can you start there? Like, where did you find the owners that you wanted to approach to talk about doing this rental arbitrage?
Well, unfortunately for me, I'm a licensed real estate owner. I'm a licensed real estate agent. So I was just looking at MLS and see, properties that, had long days on the market from a rental standpoint. So obviously the longer they've been sitting, the more flexible that owner is likely to be. So I was just looking for something that's been on there for about 60 days, and then also crunch some numbers from other properties in the area, what they're renting for, and if it's below what it should be renting for, if I can entice the owner with adding, 200-300 from what the market rent should be, and if it still fits my projections to where I can still make money and still pay my cleaners and everything like that, then I just shoot them an email. Hey, I see your property here has been sitting for about 60 days. Let me tell you about what I do. I'm a superhost on Airbnb. Only about 12 to 14% of hosts on Airbnb become superhosts. So that should kind of give you some credentials on, my capabilities as a host. I've been hosting for X amount of times. I haven't had any issues in relation to this or that. I'm willing to put extra security deposits to give you that peace of mind. And in an unforeseen incident where this was to happen, this will cover that incident plus more. Just kind of, there's no, I guess, cut and dry pitch to them, and just get a feel for that owner, the area, the market, and just try to, butter them up as far as making them comfortable for wanting to lease their property to you. And a lot of times you'll be surprised. There it is a number of games, and just like in sales, each knows you're getting closer to that yes. So I definitely want to project as if, every single homeowner I pitch to is a yes is coming. I would say it's probably close to the 20-30% marker. But when you're in sales for so long, that no just bounces through your ear. You're just looking for that yes. So.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love it because I've had one or two people reach out for some of the properties I even have in Louisville to do this, but they did not approach it in the way that you did. It was more, hey, I'm new to this. I'm looking to get in. I'm like, guys, the new to this automatically I wrote it out. I need you to come like have some experience with this before I can trust you with it, man. I don't want to see my house on the news, but I like how I like how you came in and you gave kind of the credentials. Hey, I've done this before, and you tested it with one of your units to make sure it works. And then you came and kind of leveraged that to get bigger. That's pretty awesome. Now, John, switching gears a little bit. So the other piece that you mentioned is that you are a realtor. And so I know that you have, and I've been looking at the site, Homer Exchange, where you're able to help people buy and sell their homes, but you're also able to help rehab and things of that nature. Yep. Do you mind kind of describing that business model and how you're bringing value to those clients out in Houston?
Okay. So pretty much Homer Exchange is like a four-headed monster. Pretty much I just want to be your one-stop shop in regards to if you're a real estate investor, you're looking to get into real estate investing. So obviously I have my license in Colorado, Texas, DC, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and going to keep expanding. I'm actually looking into getting into Florida, maybe Atlanta. Just being able to hold your hand for whichever, if you're just looking to just buy or sell your home, I can guide you in that manner. If you're looking to get into real estate investing, I have a wholesaling background as well. We can probably dive into that a little bit as well.
Please.
As to what wholesaling is, I work for a firm called New Western Acquisitions. They're like the largest wholesaling firm nationwide, or have 50 locations in it nationwide. They've been around since 2008. They pretty much run the largest real estate investment database nationwide. So just working for them, it's like I went to wholesaling university, but getting paid to do so. So I can guide you in that sense as far as finding deals that has a lot of meat left on the bone for these investors. And then obviously I fix and flip myself. So as far as renovations, I can guide you in that aspect as well. So I have contractors in the Houston market and DC market as well.
So what is your port? You mentioned that you fix and flip. You're able to
Yeah.
guide people. You do some wholesaling, which kind of goes hand in hand with the fix and flip, right? Especially
Yeah.
the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So what does your portfolio personally kind of look like now? Like you mentioned, you got that B&B in 2019.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you got a couple flips going. What does that look like on a month to month or year to year basis?
We're just overall. So I own 3 properties, all in the Houston market. I don't stay in any of them. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. When I first bought my first house, I lived in there for like 6 months, and I was like, man, I don't know, I just feel tied down. I move a lot, and I don't have a family yet, so it's like there's no need for me to be in this big house just for the just it's kind of like a morale or just like a I don't know cliche thing to do. Oh, I'm an adult now, so let me go ahead and get a house. And once I got the house, I was like, man, okay, well, I don't need this. So
This is just an expense.
exactly, it's an expense. Exactly, it's a liability. Whereas when you put somebody in there, it becomes that asset. So, and I'm all about having assets. So, pretty much put somebody in there, saw the benefits of it. The cash flow that came from it was decent. Hey, I like this. I want to keep doing it. So over the years, right now I'm at 3. I'm actually getting ready to purchase another house this year. And I just follow and just study a lot of real estate investors. Like if you go on my YouTube channel, it's all real estate investing. If you go on my social media pages, if you go down my feed, it's gonna be nothing but real estate investors, flippers, financial literacy guys and stuff of that nature. So a lot of them always talk about, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, real estate investing, I guess, ilks. And, the freshman is like wholesaling. Sophomore is like fixing and flipping. Junior is buy and hold. And then, senior is like commercial or like developing. So right now I've been on a sophomore for about a 2-year span. I'm finally, this year getting ready to get into that mode of buying and holding and doing the BRRRR strategy, which I'm sure you're familiar with. You buy, rehab, refinance, and repeat. So it's kind of like a sound in a synopsis. It allows you to just, with one wave of capital, continue to add to your portfolio. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. But yeah.
I love it, man.
Right. That's where I'm at right now.
I love it, man. Literally, I did it semi backwards, right? And not even backwards. I got kind of jumped right in the middle because I was in the medical sales realm, and I was up in Boston for a couple of years selling medical devices, and it was going well, thankfully. And so I just poured a lot of that capital into just buy and hold, because I literally didn't have the bandwidth. But now, in recent years, like the last 2 years, I've started to invest in more fix and flips, not as the main person, but as one of the money bringers and kind of bringing other people into it. And it's been eye-opening, the type of returns that you can get pretty quickly. Now, the market shifted a little bit to where what you just mentioned about the BRRRR strategy could be solid, right? Because the values, the appraisals are still there, but it's just what are people willing to pay, right? And I can't speak for the Houston market, but around the country, I talked to a couple guys out in Phoenix, recently, and they're like, hey, man,
Phoenix is on fire.
Hit.
Yeah.
But to that point, what have you seen over the last year, right, with the interest rates rising, things of that nature in your Houston market? I know it's one of many, but you living there, what have you seen there, and what does it look like today? Has it slowed down a little bit? Has it stabilized? What do you see?
There's still, I believe it was like a 3% growth over the last 2 years, which obviously is down from the astronomical growth that we were seeing over the prior 3-4 years, which was abnormal and just, not realistic to be obtained for a long period of time. So it's more so like a correction, but it's still growing, It's still up 3%, which is from the 90s, early 2000s, 2010s was ideal figures. So just because we kind of got spoiled in the market the last 5%, because I bought my first house in 2019, and within like its first 2 years, it gained like $75,000 in equity, which obviously is not, that's not normal. So if we were getting spoiled from a real estate market, you can anybody just getting real estate and just getting rich or just making money effortlessly just because of the times. So what I've seen more so is just it's becoming more scrutinized, it's becoming more of a specialty. You have to be more scrupulous with your numbers, your figures. Like if you're flipping, you have to you can't just throw lipstick on a pig anymore. You have to, do not high-end finishes, but precise finishes, or just something that makes it pop. That's what I'm seeing more.
Same. Agreed. Like the lipstick on the pig is sitting on the market now because people are getting in there and saying, hey, there's other options.
Yeah.
Whereas 2 years ago, year and a half ago, it was like, hey, please just let me get in. Right.
Exactly.
So it's good. It's balancing a little bit. Now it's like, hey, you actually have to do the work right, which is good.
Exactly. Might need to knock down the wall, create an open space concept, just like be creative and be innovative with those houses that you're getting.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And soon here in a couple minutes, I want to open it up to the audience for any questions. So please feel free to throw that in the chat if you have questions, or do a chat live and we'll bring you on. But before we move into that, you mentioned something at the top that we have to come back to. You were in Liberia. This is where your family's from, right? And you've been actively actually investing back in West Africa. This is something that I know I've talked to Praise about. He's super passionate about doing something potentially in Nigeria at some point. But how did you really come about getting into these opportunities? And what made you purchase this land? I'm genuinely interested in kind of what the dynamics look like and how you were able to pull this off, because it's huge.
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate to have, family members that still live in Liberia, like close nuclear family members that still live in Liberia. And also, business minded, entrepreneurial minded. So, I'm just taking advantage of those connections and relationships that I have over there. I actually lived in Liberia from fifth grade, sixth grade, and seventh grade. I was born in the U.S., like raised in the U.S. my whole life. I was born in Philadelphia. But like my parents just wanted me and my middle brother to go back over there just like, I don't know, experience the culture or whatever. And I remember when they told us, who I was like in fifth grade, like, oh, you're going to Liberia for the summer. They kind of lied to us, and I'm still kind of mad to this day. They're like, oh, you just going to Liberia for the summer. They were like, all right, cool, whatever. And then we only packed a summer bag, and we never came back for like 3 years.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I was like, that's messed up. But I was mad at the time, but looking back in hindsight, it's like one of the best experiences that I've ever had. Like I just came back today from Liberia. Like those 3 years I live over there, I'm still friends with guys from that time span that just fortuitously happen to be like, pretty substantial business individual. Like one of my closest friends when I was over there in like 6th and 7th grade right now is like one of the top tier native oil and gas distributors in the whole entire country right now. So, like I said, I just was fortunate to live over there those 3 years and have relationships, kids that I went to school with, or like people that I knew are like, top tier business individuals over there right now. So I'm just taking advantage of those relationships in the way they can guide me and steer me to feel comfortable to do business over there. Because a lot of people, you're going over there, it's like a foreign land, it's like a whole different world, literally. So just being able to have that. My dad lives over there. Well, my dad lives in Houston and Liberia. He goes back and forth, and he's in business as well over there. So just being able to have those relationships with people to guide me and pick their brains and, get their sense of how formidable you think this opportunity is, or what's your, hunch on this opportunity. Does it make sense? Can you reach out to this person that you may know and see, let them do their due diligence? So definitely my relationships definitely helped me. I don't want to make it seem as if I'm just going out there blindly and just making it happen. But, obviously I still have some aptitude of my own that makes it come into fruition. But definitely I have connection out there also.
Absolutely. And it's using kind of the keys and the things that you have around you to kind of move into opportunities. And I have no doubt that if you hadn't done what you've done, even US based, with some of the investing opportunities that you've taken advantage of, it'd be hard to feel comfortable going all the way out of country, right? You got to start where you are, start taking steps toward that financial freedom in your future. And then it starts to open up other opportunities that you may not have thought were even there before.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so before we open it up to questions from the audience, I had one last thing for you. And it's just a question that we ask every guest. It is, what are some of the goals that you have for this year? And how can our audience help you achieve some of those goals?
Goal I have for this year. Well, as I just mentioned, I'm shifting my strategy towards the buy and hold side of things. So I would really like to do the burst strategy with 3 properties this year. And so I want to buy the first of this year within the next 35-ish to 40 days. Buy it, just do a very cosmetic renovation on it, get a renter in there, refinance it, get that capital back, buy another one, and just keep that ball rolling. I'm in a position to where that refinance money, I could put all towards that next house and that next house and that next house, and not have to, try to factor in, paying myself out of anything from it. So obviously, my realtor hat is going to performing within that realtor hat is going to allow me to utilize all my investor side funds and putting it back into the business, putting it back into the business, putting it back into the business. So obviously, I have to, bring some deals to the closing table to afford that to happen. So just performing from a realtor standpoint and allowing all my investment side of things to just put it back 100% into the investor side of things, not taking a dollar out of it. Outside of that, grow my client base from a consulting and renovation standpoint. While I was over there, I'm in DC right now, and the Liberia embassy is obviously in Washington DC, and I'm working right now, trying to work my magic and putting it out there in the space that I'm going to renovate the Liberia embassy. Yeah,
That'll be dope. That'll be dope. And I look forward to it happening.
Yes, sir.
No, this is cool. This is cool. John, again, we appreciate you for joining, man. Now we're going to open it up to the audience for questions. And I think we have Kareem calling in.
How's everybody?
Kareem, how you doing, man?
What's up, Kareem, man? How you doing?
How you doing, John?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for Yeah, absolutely. Happy to start us off with the questions. I wanted to know more about DSLR loans. Are they a good option to scale from the first property to second property? I was asking specifically about the DSLR loans and if they're a viable option to scale from the first property to the second one.
Okay. I'm not too familiar with DSLR loans, to be honest with you,
I got you on that piece. So I think you mean like DSCR, right? DSCR, like debt service ratio loans?
I think so. This is the type of loan I'm sorry if I messed it up. It's a type of loan where they value the rental revenue that's created by the property. Basically, they don't check any of your personal
financials,
situation. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a solid way to scale up, especially when you start to hit that limit of how many conventional loans you can get. I can tell you that last year I hit that limit. I hit that limit because I had 2 short-term rentals that were still less than 2 years old. And so the mortgage was still weighing on my conventional. And they're like, dude, you got like $6,000 worth of mortgages with no quote unquote income because you have to have 2 years of the Airbnb before they'll count it. And so long story short, the art house, which I think you've seen, I bought that with the DSCR loan. And at the time, you were able to put down 15%, which was awesome. Now I think they're up to like 20%, but it's a great way to keep buying real estate without all the hassle of having to, give over a drop of your blood, your firstborn, and then also all the documents that they ask for.
Thank you.
Your firstborn.
It gets crazy. It gets crazy, man. Kareem, did that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And if there's like any creative ways to scale. So as you know, Nino, I'm still in like property number 1. I'm doing short-term rentals, John, and starting to go really well. Started to go on like cruise control a little bit, knock on wood. So I'm starting to think it's been 6 months already, almost. And I'm starting to think what should my goals be in the next 6 months towards scaling.
What's your equity situation for that property?
I'm sorry, can you elaborate on that a little?
Like your equity situation. So I would say, like for me, something I've utilized is a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to buy a house in 2019.
Yeah.
At a certain point, within the next 2 years, the value went up so much that what I owed on it and what it's now worth within a 2-year span, that gap in between it. So let's say for easy math, I bought it for $300,000 and the value has gone up $70,000 within that 2 years. So that $70,000 that's positive, you can get a loan on that $70,000 from the bank, up to 80% of that, which is a home equity line of credit. So now you have $50,000, $55,000 that you can use to go buy a property with no money out of your own pocket, but you're just using that equity that's in the home to purchase a property. So now if you're doing the BRRRR strategy, so you buy the house, you renovate it, once you refinance and pull that money back out, you pay that HELOC back, that home equity line of credit, And now you can go do it again and again and again and again, which is what I'm doing in my current situation right now. So I would definitely suggest looking up HELOCs and seeing what your equity is in that property right now.
Got it. Yeah, it's
And then
only
also,
been
I don't
five
know
or
that
six
house that you
months.
bought, if you use the FHA loan or not. Obviously, FHA loans, is only 3.5% down. That gives you extra buy power as well. And something I wish I would have did, because one of my properties I used the FHA loan. Obviously, with it only having to be 3.5% down, you want to utilize that for a bigger buy. More so, a lot of guys suggest utilizing that for like a multi-family purchase, which is something I wish I would have did.
And to that point, kind of piggybacking off of that, and you just reminded me, actually, I sold the house that I had an FHA on. So I got my FHA back. I could use that. I think I will this year at some point. But to that point, hey, come on now. That's how I got started. But that the HELOC piece is huge. I think we've talked about it before, Kareem, but my personal house, I took about $100K HELOC on it. And that's what I used to invest in different flip deals. Right. Okay. And so I invested in short-term projects that other people are working on, right, to get that return back. And then I use the cash to invest in more real estate. But it could be an option. It just depends on where the equity status is at, to John's point. And with the interest rates that were rising and things of that nature, we just got to take a look, right? We got to see like, hey, what if people bought other houses around the neighborhood for, and has it been increasing constantly? But does that answer your question, or have you been saving up funds and things of that nature for the next house?
I'm spread super thin now after this house and my other business. So I didn't get a chance to like put anything aside from those businesses yet. And I was just wondering if the HELOC sounds like it's a really good opportunity for shorter engagements than like an Airbnb or like a long-term hold, because otherwise you'll just be increasing your monthly expenses to pay for that HELOC as well, right?
Yeah.
Agreed. So, and I think we got a question here, and John, I'm going to kick that to you in a second. But to that point, for the HELOCs, the main benefit is there's always that gap. Like when you buy a house that's a personal house, you have to put down 5% or 3.5%, right? If you buy an investment property, they make you put down 20%. What a HELOC allows you to do is access the rest of that equity based on whatever it appraises for, right? And they give you that money as a line of credit. But to your point, it's basically like having a credit card. It's a credit card with a lot less interest. Most credit cards are like 20, 25%, but the HELOC changes with the prime rate. And so a firm example is when I got my HELOC in December of 2021, it was at 5%, and it was locked in for 6 months, and then it adjusted with the prime rate. When I looked at my HELOC the other day, I think it was like 9% or 10%. Like it's crazy because it's gone up because interest rates have gone up. And so now it's like, all right, do I want to pay 10% on this? So I personally only use it for 6 month or less projects where I know it's going to be a quick turn, and say I'm going to get a 15% return on something. If I'm paying 10% interest or 8% interest, I'll just keep the delta.
Yep.
And John, I know you've used the HELOC before. One question your way from the chat: do you need to leave 20% for the HELOC on that property?
Yes. Well, it's not definitive, but for most HELOCs that I've been familiar with, yes, that's the case. But obviously, it's all based off your lender's curriculum. But from everything that I'm privy of, yes, you do.
And have you been getting HELOCs on your investment property?
No, on my primary residence.
Okay.
Yeah, my primary residence. Yeah.
Nice.
But there are HELOCs for investment properties, which is something I'm looking into right now, actually, for my other 2 houses that I have.
That's something I haven't done yet, but I definitely
like you have to find like specialty lenders. I have some notes on my phone if I were to go through it, because I went to like this mastermind, and some of the guys in there were like showing me like different lenders that do that for investment properties.
John, please, you got to send me those contacts, man, because I have a couple that I want to tap into that I've had since, like 2017, 2018 that have gone up significantly. I just haven't sat down and actually started calling people and saying, hey, can you do it? But if you have somebody, that would be awesome.
For sure. I'll look through there. My question to you, with those other 2 properties, are there any other means you've tried to look into outside of the HELOC to kind of just utilize the equity that you have into them?
With the other properties that I have?
Yeah.
I've had people call and reach out about refinancing and things of that nature, but I was like, I'm not looking to pull the money really out of there. And I think it was really what it was is I was working a full-time W-2 while taking on the realtor piece, while everything else. And this is definitely an excuse. I tell people not to make excuses, but I was like, you know what, man, I don't feel like filling out all that paperwork for a refinance. I'm like, this is going to take forever. And so I didn't do it at that time. And now I'm looking back like, dang, I could have refinanced and taken something from a 4 to a 3. It was just timing. Timing was everything back then.
Yep.
What is the difference between doing a HELOC on an investment property versus a personal property? And why do you need a specialty lender?
Yeah, so for your personal property, it's a much simpler process, and that's the standard route and realm of doing HELOCs, home equity line of credit. Is typically used for your primary home. There are lenders that utilize it for investment properties, but since it's not your primary residence, they're a little bit more scrupulous on the process of you getting approved for it.
True, agreed, and it has a little bit it's almost like the same reason why, and we're going to go to alpha in 2 seconds, but it's almost like the same reason why you can put 5% down to buy your primary residence versus having to put 15-20% down to buy investment property. Yeah. From a bank standpoint, your primary residence, if you stop paying, they're going to kick you out in the street, and that's your family. Like if you had an investment property over here in a primary residence and you came on hard times, you'd stop paying the investment before you stop paying your primary residence, right? That's where your family stays. So that's why they're like, hey, we can take a little bit less. So with the HELOC, that's putting a little bit more onto that same property. And so it's easier to do it with your primary because, again, that same logic plays like, hey, this is your personal residence. You're going to take care of it. You're going to pay this. As opposed to an investment property, you could let that go to the wayside and there's a little more risk there.
Yep.
A question for you, John, about the wholesale career. Can you talk a bit more about your wholesale career? How did you get started with New Western Acquisitions? And do you need a license to work with them or for them?
Yeah, so when I first got my license in Houston, I started off with New Western as a wholesaler. It's something, wholesaling just in general is a great way, I would say is one of the fastest and efficient ways to build capital for your investor pursuits. Unless you have a high paying sales job or a high paying, job on the side, but just if you're new into real estate, the fastest way to gain capital for your aspirations as an investor is wholesaling. Sometimes my first deal I did, I believe the fee was like $25,000. And that whole entire process took like 3 weeks. There's not too many jobs that you're going to make $25,000 in 3 weeks, especially starting off. And that was like within like my first 5 weeks of even trying it. I just got serendipity. Lucky, but then again, not lucky. Obviously, there's some skill that goes into it. But what was the other part of the question? Do you have to have your license? No, you don't have to have your license to be a wholesaler at all. Now, New Western, they are the preeminent wholesale firm nationwide. So they do require all their agents to have their real estate license just because it's a further pitch and a further credential in their maneuvers in their day-to-day operations to tell all these agents and these home sellers, these distressed homeowners, that all of our wholesalers are licensed. So they have a standard operation because as of recent, there is, I guess, a stigma when it comes to wholesalers, because they see it as if you don't have any skin in the game. Well, I'll just give a quick breakdown overview on what wholesaling is. So a wholesale is you see a property that's off market and you get on a contract. You're looking for a distressed seller, somebody that's going through a divorce, somebody who needs to move out the country in a fast situation. There's a fire. People that are under stress, and obviously in sales, when somebody's stressed, you're going to get more of a bargain of a deal than somebody that's not in a rush or doesn't have that extra push to sell that property. So you find these distressed homeowners, you get their property under contract at a highly discounted price. And once you have something under contract, all contracts are assignable unless it's specifically written in there that it can't be assigned. So if I find Susan and her husband just died and she needs the cash for her kids to go to college, and I offer her $200,000 on her house, but it's really worth $265,000. But she doesn't want to do any fixing up at that home to get her to that point because it's going to take time and she needs the cash fast. So I offer her $200,000, and I don't have the intentions or the means to actually buy it for $200,000, but I have the contract and the rights to buy it at $200,000. I'll find an investor that fits their criteria of what they're looking for an investment property and assign it to them for $215,000. So now I just made $15,000 as an assignment fee with no skin in the game as far as no financial obligations. So it's a win because she's getting that cash that she needs for that situation that she's in. Obviously, it's a win for me because I just made $15,000, and it's a win for an investor because he's not going to buy it or close on it unless it meets all his criteria and it's fitting for him as an investor. So it's a win-win-win for all parties involved. And some people seem to have a stigma when it comes to wholesaler because they feel as if, well, why do you just make the $15,000 when, it's my house and that's $15 that could have went to me, but you're the one conjuring up that action into the closing table without it's kind of like you're the magic man, you're making it happen. So that's what you're getting that $15,000 for. So,
and wholesaling is tough, man. Wholesaling
is tough. It sounds
like
easy, but just think about it. Anything that, produces that type of cash in that quick of a time, obviously it takes a very unique skill to be able to make it actually gets to that closing table. There's so many deals that are almost and come together, but they don't transpire all the way. So it takes managerial skills. It takes people managing. It takes a lot. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely rewarding when you do get to that closing table.
Absolutely. And we have two more questions. We got one in the chat that we're going to come to, but I want to go to Alpha first. Alpha, welcome. What you got, man?
So I had a quick question. So I know with the interest rates going up, I've been seeing a lot of seller signs or sell by owner. And I have heard some rumblings about being able to buy from the owner and it being a little bit easier because you kind of just go through their financing, especially if it's already paid off. I wanted to ask, what do you guys know about that? And that's been something that you guys have considered, because I am also trying to work on my next deal. And I've taken pictures of several properties in Atlanta that are for sale by owner, but I just never been able to find some good, adequate information on that process.
You want to take it?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So the for sale by owner is owners. So let me even take a step back. The reason that owners look at the for sale by owner route is because when you look at the real estate process, the owners are the ones that are paying the fees, right? So it's kind of weird, but the seller pays both the seller's agent and the buyer's agent, right? They're usually paying about 6 to 10% in fees. And so some sellers think, hey, man, I'm just going to be able to list my property and go get it sold. And if it was a time period like, maybe over the last 2 years or really before the interest rate started rising, that could work. But then the piece that some sellers miss out on is having somebody who is, not in love with the house, right? Hasn't lived there for multiple years, actually being able to run a comp analysis and tell them, hey guys, this is what's happening in the market. This is what your property's worth. This is what Susan down the street sold for, not just anecdotally, but this is literally what's written in the documents. And this is kind of where you need to be to objectively help with that. And so the for sale by owner can get you a better deal. The one piece that you've got to watch out for and that you have to be prepared for is if you go down that route, you've got to negotiate everything, right? And you're going to negotiate everything with the seller because they're doing this to save on realtor fees. And so when you look at like the different contracts and the different protections that you got to have, you've got to be well versed in that and or be able to talk to a title agency or a lawyer or somebody that can help you through that process, because you're not going to have that realtor by your side to assist with that because there's not that nugget at the end for them, right? And so the whole reason that you have sellers that use agents is because it kind of eliminates that whole friction piece from having to go back and forth and negotiate. You kind of just leave that to the realtors to handle it and kind of represent for you. And so that's the major difference with the for sale by owner in my mind. John, you got anything on that?
Question: could you have a buyer's agent and you just pay out of pocket and then the seller would be fine with it, or
you could? And
okay,
you could, and the seller would be fine. But again, that's increasing even the buyer's cost, right? So you'd have to be okay with paying, X% of the purchase price to that buyer's agent. And it's a unique type of way, right? It's a unique way to do it. Back when it was, when you look at flips, a lot of flips are usually like this, right? A lot of flips are where, hey, we're going to give it to you for this price, but we're not paying any of the closing costs or any agents because we're literally giving it to you for what we owe, right? And so it could be something similar to that.
You pretty much hit on the head from my standpoint. When it's direct and you don't have that fiduciary of a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, you definitely invite much more probability of, shady, language in contracts and different things of that nature, because you don't have experts who, have spent hours and hours being able to dissect contract to protect their buyer or to protect their seller. So if you have an overly savvy FSBO, for sale by owner, he might be able to sneak in language in there that may go over that buyer's head that's putting you in, compromising positions as opposed to having that agent. So I would say buying directly from a seller or doing seller financing, you definitely want to have, if you don't have an agent, you definitely want to get, some kind of legal entity involved to overlook those contracts and make sure what you think you're getting involved with is exactly what you're getting involved with.
Exactly. It's almost
because
like
a lot of times when you're dealing with agents, a lot of those contracts are drafted by that given state, or so these are promulgated forms that are written up by the state. So there's not misconceptions that are thrown in there here and there, as opposed to if you're buying directly from that seller, which he's drafting up the contract and may not cover all angles that might pop up in that process.
Agreed. It's almost like taking the training wheels off, right? Where it's like, hey, you're full go, and you've got to kind of know all the different things and different clauses that can try to trip you up, right? As opposed to, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. It's almost like, training wheels. That's what I would say. It's like taking the training wheels off and really going full flow and saying, hey, I've got this piece. But switching gears, we've got 2 more questions in the chat. So first question, are real estate agents able to find arbitrage units for short-term rentals so that you can cover larger ground? And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, John. You were able to find a couple through the MLS by looking at like 60 days or longer?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's kind of who you targeted, and you had a decent success rate?
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, obviously it's like 20-30% success rate, but you lose nothing but just receiving a no in that standpoint. So I would deem that to be a pretty high successful rate. And the answer is yes. There's no written language or no government body that prevents you as an agent from implementing that process that I just stated earlier, as far as looking on MLS, seeing properties that's been listed for a long time, and inquiring on it on your behalf, just because you're licensed. Kareem is freezing on me, man.
So he was saying, would agents view these requests as like too much work or look down on that piece? Like, hey, what's going on here?
Not necessarily. Obviously, it differs from person to person from my experience, but not really, because the agent has incentive, obviously, to get a renter in there for their client. So not from my experience, especially if the property's been sitting for a long time. The owner's motivated, the agent's motivated because they get their commission when they get a renter in there. Obviously, you, the pursuer, is definitely motivated.
Okay. And the last question for tonight, coming from Christiana, welcome, is can you go over some pros and cons of a HELOC versus refinancing?
Yes. So refinancing a home, the pros and cons of refinancing a home. The pros of refinancing a home, you'll probably get a little bit more out when you refinance your home, and you're locked in at an interest rate when you refinance your home. Whereas with a HELOC, it varies based off of what the market interest rate is at. I believe, like Janine said earlier, his HELOC, it's about every 6 months it shifts.
Yeah. So the first 6 months it was locked in at 5, and then it goes prime plus 1. So literally the whole time that, the Fed's been raising it every, 0.75, my HELOC's been following the same trend.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. So it's been tough. But to your point, that HELOC piece.
And how long is your HELOC? Because my HELOC, I'm locked in it's for 10 years.
Same. So I have it for a decade. I can use it as much as I want, as long as I have the house, right? Which is awesome. But to your point, that HELOC, it's going to adjust on you. The refinance, you're pulling cash out, right? And it's tax-free cash because you didn't do anything to the property. So you can go and do whatever you want with that cash. And that would be a great opportunity for like a long-term play. If you wanted to pull that cash out, to your point, the refinance, the Burr method, and go and buy another property, perfect. You're good to go because you're locked in your financing. Whereas with the HELOC, if you wanted to pull that out and go buy another property, to Kareem's point earlier, you're now paying two mortgages essentially. Yeah. It's like, hey, you're paying the debt. It's almost like buying a house on credit card. You're paying the debt on the credit card or the HELOC, and you're paying the debt on the house. I personally wouldn't do that, right? But
Exactly.
refinance,
So
I would.
Just to piggyback off what you said, I would look at a HELOC more so as utilized for a short-term, definitive, highly probable, successful play, where the refinance is for a long, slow play.
Absolutely. Definitely. And John, we are going to wrap it up here shortly, but I wanted to, for anybody that wants to connect with you, right? How can they get in touch with you if we have business going on in Houston, business going on in DC, Maryland, a couple of the other areas that you mentioned? How can we connect with you and kind of follow up and learn more?
Well, you can connect with me through my email, which is my last name, Youboty, Youboty9011 @gmail.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at John Youboty, or you can find me on Instagram at John Youboty_abundant, John Youboty_abundant. Any of the three, reach out to me. I can forward over my cell phone as well. I'm pretty responsive in all facets that I just mentioned.
John, we appreciate you, man. After 25 hours of flight coming from West Africa back to the U.S., I don't know how you're still up right now. Please get some rest, man. And literally, we got to catch up again after
for sure. I'm definitely going to come to Atlanta, man.
Come through. Yes, I got some spots for you, man.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right, John. Be safe.
I appreciate it, Nia. I appreciate you for having me, man. Looking forward to catching back up with you. And I appreciate all you guys for the questions. And keep grinding, man. Real estate is the key, man. It's the way. It's the way to financial freedom and, freedom of your time. So you can spend time with the ones you love and your family, man. So I appreciate you guys for having me. I'm getting ready to go catch some Z's.
All right, John. Be safe.
All right, Nia. Appreciate it, man.
See you, man.
All right.